I'm not sure what you're on about there. Sorry, Mason told Timo or said Timo what?
He should be scoring with the chances that he had.
Yeah, I don't know what context that's been taken in, but never really heard Mason say too many things that sound how you first put that. I think Timo would know himself first and foremost if he misses a chance that he might take. When you're a top striker, you get in positions a lot. You can miss chances. So I think I mentioned it around the last game is that I want players that are hungry in attacking areas to want to score goals, to be unhappy if they don't. No one's pointing fingers at anyone else there.
Liam Toomey.
Hi, Frank.
Hi, Liam.
Hi, Frank. I wanted to ask you about Tammy and the way he's been playing. Another really good performance against Newcastle. And even aside from his goals, he seems to be doing a lot more of the little things to make everyone around him better and working really well with Timo. How impressed have you been with the way he's responded to the challenge presented by the new signings and just his all-round game?
Yeah, I'm really pleased with him. He's playing really well at the minute, and I agree with what you're saying. His all-round game of off-the-ball work for the team, link-up play is good. I have to say, I think in some parts, I think it got slightly forgotten how good he was in the first half of last season, because he was a massive plus for us then, scored a lot of goals and was a big reason at times when we were getting results, and we finished fourth. And a lot of individuals should take credit, and Tammy should, for the first half. The second half of the season was more difficult for him. I think that's normal for a developing player because he's still relatively young. But at the minute now, I'm clearly seeing like a mirror of how he trains and how he is. He's training brilliantly. He's enthusiastic, which was when Tammy's at his best, and that's just absolutely coming out in his game. So I hope that continues. Moose.
Hi, Frank. How are you?
Hi, Moose. Good, thanks.
Chasing 6 wins in a row in all competitions, not conceding a goal, not looking like one, and you could qualify possibly if you win and the other result goes your way with 2 matches to spare. Just talk us through how good a position at the moment you and Chelsea are in.
Well, I'm pleased, Moose, and I think it's now important to have balance. I talked about trying to be humble after the result of the weekend, and when I say that, I'm just talking about ourselves. We have to have the nice balance of a good feeling, which the players should have, winning games in a decent position, but then a real attitude and eagerness to get even better, because 6 games sounds good. But the minute we drop levels or don't prepare right, it will change. And I think Rennes is a very difficult team tomorrow that we're going to be playing against. Very accomplished team. We found that at the bridge. And I've got a lot of respect for them. So we just have to keep focusing on ourselves to keep that form and improve.
Babatunde.
Good afternoon, Lampard.
Hi, good afternoon.
My name is Ojora Babatunde of OJB Sports. I'm based in Paris, France. Olivier Giroud has publicly complained about his playing time in Chelsea. Do you have any plans to give him more play time, or will you allow him leave if any offer comes in January?
I do have plans that have Ollie very important in our squad. He was a big member of our squad last year. I think he played a lot of games and made a lot of starts for us last year. When you look at his Chelsea career in terms of league starts, I think he played a relative amount. He'll always want to play more. He's a huge member of the squad for me, and I know he'll be important for us going forward. So I want Ollie to be here and to stay because of the way he's playing. I have a very good relationship with Ollie, and if ever he felt that it was going to go a different way, then I would happily have that conversation with him. But I want him to stay here, and we will be very open both ways if that ever changed. But at the minute, he's very important to me.
Jim Conlon.
I suppose, Frank, big London derby at the weekend, Chelsea against Tottenham Hotspur, third against Spurs. Is there an idea that maybe one eye will be on at the weekend there tonight, given your players, or are you fully focused on the challenge of Rennes?
I'm fully focused on the challenge of Rennes, because I think when you're in the Champions League and you're playing the level of the team of Rennes, we were very impressed with them when we played them at Stamford Bridge. They obviously went down to 10 men, but we're now an important part. Everyone keeps saying if we get the right result, the group could be done in terms of our qualification. But in the flip of that, if we get the wrong result, we make it a difficult couple of games ahead of us in the group, because we go to Seville next. So we have to respect this game. I won't think too much. We have till Sunday for Tottenham. I won't consider that as much as just dealing with Rennes at face value.
John Cross.
Hello, Frank. I just wondered whether I could ask you about the defensive record, really. And you've conceded 1 goal in 7 games, Frank. And you probably had me earlier in the season saying you're an attacking coach, not a defensive coach, and you're defending your defensive record. So listen, what's at a time when it's very difficult to coach on the training ground, just because of the fixture schedule, what's changed? And how pleased are you with that change?
Well, we have coached. And that started at the start of this season, this tiny pre-season that we had. But we had assessed the main areas we conceded goals in last season. So there were some tweaks to things to address on the training pitch. So we have done that. Some of the goals we conceded last year were mistakes, and some of the goals earlier in this season were mistakes in the games. Southampton, at West Brom. So I think there were sometimes small details and fine margins, and I think what has gone up in a big way is the confidence of the team and the defensive nature, concentration of the team, and it should always be there, obviously, but sometimes these are things you have to work on and progress, and work and personnel helps that. We've clearly had big individuals that have come in from recruitment terms of, Edu Mendy, Thiago Silva, Ben Chilwell, and that obviously helps, but the collective has to be the most important thing, and I think the lads are working well and having confidence. So we need to continue.
Jerry Cox.
Hi, Frank. You okay?
Hi, Jerry. Yes, good. Thanks.
Good. Mason Mount's had to overcome a lot of criticism on social media. England fans didn't think he should have got ahead of Grealish, and even earlier this season there were Chelsea fans on social media thinking he was sort of getting selected. Even comments like he's Frank Lampard's son, that sort of thing. Do you think he has to work a bit harder because he's come through the ranks and he's not a sort of big, expensive signing? I mean, you had it in West Ham in your early days, didn't you?
Yeah. Every individual's different. I don't know it's necessarily because he came through the academy, but I do think now, listen, I think we have a huge fan base, and you talk about England, and the social media world has changed the face of how people critique or look at football, and it's very easy for somebody to sit on a phone and make very harsh statements. With Mason, I think I said this before the last game, and I think there can go something about him that maybe he looks clean cut. I think he's doing one advert at the minute where he takes his top off. That's about as edgy as Mason gets. He doesn't do too many triple step overs and flicks over the back of his head in areas he shouldn't do. He makes really efficient, clean, sharp passes. He presses as well as any midfield player that I've worked with or played alongside, and does 100 things within his game that impress the managers that he works for. So I think he's very easy and casual because he hasn't got an Instagram reel of those kind of flicks, and it's different type of football. I think it's easy that people can bracket him off. I certainly don't. And when I say that, I don't want to add fuel to the fire of him being my son, because I've just been so positive about it. Because I know Mason has got a lot to improve on, and then that's what takes you on to his attitude and his desire to improve. He can score more goals. He can make more assists. But he's a quality football player who's only going to get better, and that's how I feel about him. But make no mistake, Mason Mount or any player in his squad will not be getting any form of favouritism from me about playing the position when there is competition in this squad. We need to have a driven competition amongst everybody in the squad, and midfield areas I've got options. In wide areas now we have options where we had injuries earlier in the season. So it's competitive for everybody, and nobody gets the edge from me other than on how they train and how they perform.
Loic Brilly, RMC.
Hi, Frank. A question about Thiago Silva. Could you please explain us what does he bring to your team? How important is he today for your group?
He's very important, and he's become very quickly important for us. He brings experience, obviously. He brings qualities on the pitch, and he brings a leadership which has been very impressive considering he doesn't speak English very well. He can communicate also in French and Portuguese with some of the teammates, but his daily attitude to training, his focus and preparation for games, I think is something that rubs off on the other players. And then he has a great talent. I always admired him from afar. Now it's a pleasure to be able to work with him.
Sammy Mockbell.
Hi, Frank.
Hi, Sammy.
I think you can qualify tomorrow night if the results go your way. Just in terms of that, in terms of the player welfare and player fatigue, that might give you an opportunity to rest players later on in the final two games. I know you'll focus on winning tomorrow night, but is that something as a football manager that's in the back of your head?
Yeah, I mean, I've just looked at the schedule through December, and it's brutal. You know, we're doing a job that we love and we want to play regularly, but some of the games, particularly around Christmas at the moment, I hope it changes. We're due to play Arsenal on Boxing Day, and then Aston Villa, I think 2 days later, when that game can easily be pushed 1 or 2 further days later, or things like that have to make sense. But I have to be aware of that. So yeah, we first and foremost, we need to prepare up for this game to try and win it, which is going to be a really tough challenge. But of course, if we were to make one step into the next round, then it would be opportunities maybe to look at players that need game minutes or to rest players. But we would still want to win this group, and no matter the results tomorrow, we still have to go to Seville in the next game. So I think it's going to be competitive throughout, really. And I'm confident in the squad. Even if I make rotations, I do that sometimes to keep us as strong as we are, or even improve us. So yeah, those things will come into my thinking.
Matt Law.
Hi, Frank. Can I just take you back to your two strikers again? Just with Tammy, I just wondered whether there was any stage earlier in the season when he came to see you or expressed any displeasure, because I think you'd probably admit yourself he was a bit unlucky not to start the season, given he was your top scorer last season. He's obviously reacted to that very well. And then just on Giroud, I appreciate you say you want to keep him, but he and his agent have made it pretty clear that they want him to be playing in the Euros in the summer. And I just wondered, within wanting to keep him, whether realistically you can sort of give him enough that he needs to actually keep his place for France.
Yeah, I think with Tammy, I think he particularly young players or players can't hide it always, which is fine. Because if he's training well and he's preparing well and he looks great and he doesn't start, I understand why he would be frustrated, and he has been doing that. So the flip of that is that they need to know that there's competition at a club like Chelsea in forward areas. And when to look at Tammy, you look at Ollie, you look at Timo, and maybe other players that can play up front, and it's competitive. So everyone has to sort of take that one. I mean, last season we relied heavily on Tammy as the central striker for a big part of the season, which got us to fourth, which was a huge thing for us last year. And then we relied heavily on Ollie in restart to produce, and that has to be the level of competition and support that we had within. I saw all these agents' quotes, and I thought nothing of them in a bad way, because it's normal. I know Ollie very well. We have an open conversation. He wants to play. When he doesn't play, he's an incredible support for the other players. He trains brilliantly no matter what. And we had really sort of grown-up conversations like we did last January. So in January, we would cross that bridge when it comes. But my first thought always has to be the strength of our squad. Just mentioned the schedule in December there. And I will be using or relying on top players, and both of those, as I see it, are top strikers for us. So we'll have to see how that one goes. And I'll always be honest with Ollie. But I still think he's got a big contribution for us. I know that because I know how he is. And I don't want to get drawn at the end of November into conversations about what might happen in January onwards at the minute.
Okay, last two, a quick one each for Tony Banks and then Andy Dillon. Tony.
Hi, Frank.
Hi, Tony.
I just want to go back to Tammy. There's been a couple of questions on him, but I wondered whether playing alongside a player like Timo is making him a better player in terms of watching a world-class striker like Werner in operation. You would think that's going to make him a better player. That's going to make him take on board some of the things that Timo does.
Yeah, I think when we brought in, obviously, a few players in attacking areas, Hakim Ziyech as well, had a big impact on the other side recently. And, we have players here already in those areas. And the whole point of bringing in players is not only that recruitment of, bringing in the qualities of Timo for what they'll give us, but to lift others around him by link up on the pitch or by a squad competition. That means people will have to show. Now, we do have more options, or I have more options in forward areas, and I need good reactions. And Tammy's just shown a brilliant reaction in terms of how he is, and he needs to be on the edge. All the young players need to be absolutely on edge daily to push themselves to try and be playing this team. And then when they play like Tammy is at the moment, he starts making my decisions easier because he's playing so well. I think linking up with people like Timo will obviously help. But first and foremost, it always has to be about the player himself, and Tammy should take credit for his start and understand that he must now next challenge is to remain consistent. And if he looks at last season, I think he will see that as well.
Last question, Andy Dillon.
Hiya, Frank. Can you hear me okay?
Hi, Andy. I've got you.
Hiya. Just wondered, last week a lot was made of the fact that the fixture list was unkind to Chelsea. Just looking forward now, and with the European games as they're panning out, has it been a bit kinder to Chelsea this week, given you've got a huge game against Spurs on Sunday, but you've got 2 days advance on them, if you like, and your players will have more than 48 hours? And do you have any sympathy for Spurs in that regard? Because I know you're smiling. Somebody somewhere is going to bring it up later this week. I'm sure he will. So I just wonder if you have a bit of a sense of solidarity with them.
Yeah, always. I couldn't sit here and maybe complain the other way around. I know that it can be when you're looking at fixture lists. You can. I'm talking already about December, and there's some really difficult moments for us. This week we'll see. I think it's difficult to speak before we go into the games. We go into a very tough Champions League game. I'm not sure with the Europa League in terms of what team Jose can pick. He's got a very strong squad who can make rotations. So that remains to be seen. I think they're in a strong position in their group, in a pretty healthy position. And then they'll have 3 days recovery for Sunday, and Sunday for both teams. If you're not going to get up and fresh and ready to attack a London derby like what we've got ahead of us at Sunday, then you shouldn't be in this game, and that goes to both teams. So it remains to be seen. Jose will probably make some rotations in their Europa League game, and we'll see what I do tomorrow.
Okay, thanks everyone. See you later.
Thanks.
Stay online.